Yo, what's up? Ricky Sanders here. If you live for fast cars, greasy hands, and solving problems under the hood, welcome to your new favourite spot. I'm all about real fixes, no BS, and showing you how to keep your ride running like a champ. So go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let's make some noise in the garage. Enough talk, let's get wrenching.
Lapping valves with their own hands, an uncomplicated procedure, provided that the car owner has previously had experience in performing repair work. To carry out lapping valve seats, we'll need a number of tools and materials, including lapping paste, a device for dismantling valves, a drill, screwdriver, kerosene, a spring with a diameter passing into the hole of the valve seat. In terms of time lapping engine valves, the procedure is quite costly, because for its performance it is necessary to dismantle the cylinder head. What lapping is and why it is needed. Valve lapping is a process that ensures that the intake and exhaust valves in the engine cylinders are perfectly seated in their seats. Lapping is usually performed when the valves are replaced with new ones, or after an engine overhaul. Ideally, lapped valves provide maximum tightness in the cylinder, combustion chamber. This, in turn, ensures a high level of compression, engine efficiency, normal operation, and performance. In other words, if new valves are not lapped, some of the energy of the burned gases will be irretrievably lost instead of providing the proper power to the engine. This will certainly increase fuel consumption, and the engine's power will definitely decrease. Some modern cars are equipped with an automatic valve-shaped control system. It simply ages the valve, so there is no need for manual lapping. What is needed for lapping? The lapping process is performed with the cylinder head dismantled. Therefore, in addition to tools for lapping valves, the car owner will also need tools for dismantling the cylinder head. As a rule, these are ordinary locksmith's wrenches, screwdrivers, rags. However, it is also desirable to have a torque wrench, which will be needed at the stage of mounting the head back in place. The need for it arises because the mounting bolts holding the head in its seat must be screwed with a certain torque, which is just, and can be provided only with a torque wrench. Depending on what method of lapping valves will be chosen, manual or mechanized, about them a little later, differs, and a set of tools for the work. Directly to perform lapping of valves, the car owner will need manual valve holder. In auto stores or workshops are available for sale ready-made such products. If for some reason you do not want or cannot buy such a holder, it can be made yourself. How to make it is described in the following section. The manual valve holder is used for manual valve lapping. Paste for lapping valves. In most cases, car owners buy ready-made compositions, because nowadays there are a lot of these means in auto stores, including at different prices. In extreme cases, you can make a similar composition and independently from abrasive chips. Drill or screwdriver with the possibility of reversing, for mechanized lapping. As a rule, lapping is performed in both directions of rotation, so the drill, screwdriver, should rotate both in one and the other direction. You can also use a hand drill, which itself can rotate in one and the other direction. Hose and spring. These devices are necessary to perform mechanized lapping. The spring should have a low stiffness, and the diameter is 2 to 3 mm larger than the diameter of the valve stem. Similarly, and the hose, so that it can be flush on the rod. You can also use a small clamp to secure it. It is also necessary to have some non-long metal rod with a diameter similar to the piston rod, so that it also fit the rubber hose. Kerosene. It is used as a cleaner and later to check the quality of the lapping. The Sphero. This is a special tool designed to remove damaged metal in the valve seat. Such devices are sold ready-made in auto stores. Currently, in auto stores you can find this part for almost any engine, the more so for common cars. Rag. Subsequently, with its help you will need to wipe dry the treated surfaces, at the same time and hands. Solvent. It is necessary for cleaning the working surfaces. Scotch tape. It is a necessary component when performing one of the methods of mechanized cleaning. Electric drill, or screwdriver, and a metal drill bit with a diameter of 8.5 mm. Contact or gas welding. Nut and bolt with a diameter of 8 mm. The algorithm for making a device for lapping valves will be as follows. Drill a hole of the above diameter at a distance of about 7–10 mm from one of the edges. Weld the nut exactly above the drilled hole using welding. It is necessary to work carefully so as not to damage the thread on the nut. Screw the bolt into the nut so that its edge reaches the inner surface of the tube wall opposite to the hole. As a handle for the tube, you can either bend the opposite piece of pipe at a right angle, or finish welding another piece of pipe, or any other metal piece similar in shape, straight. Screw the bolt back out, and insert the valve stem into the tube, and use the bolt to clamp it firmly with a wrench. Nowadays, you can find such a factory-made fixture in many online stores. However, the problem is that the price for them is clearly overpriced. But if the car owner does not want to perform the manufacturing procedure himself, you can quite buy a device for lapping valves. Methods of valve lapping. There are actually two methods of valve lapping, manual and mechanized. However, manual lapping is a laborious and time-consuming process. Therefore, it is better to use the so-called mechanized method, using a drill or screwdriver. However, let's analyze one and the other method in order. Manual lapping method. To perform lapping of the valves of the car engine, you need to follow the algorithm below. Apply a continuous thin layer of lapping paste to the valve chamfer. First use coarse-grained paste and then fine-grained paste. If the above-described homemade lapping device is used, it is necessary to insert the valve into its seat, turn the cylinder head upside down, and put the holder on the valve standing in the valve sleeve and lubricated with lapping paste. Next, the bolt should be tightened in order to fix the valve in the pipe as firmly as possible. Then rotate the lapping device with the valve alternately in both directions by half a turn, approx. plus or minus 25 degrees. After 1 or 2 minutes, turn the valve 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise, repeating the reciprocating lapping movements. The valve should be lapped by periodically pressing it against the seat and then releasing it, repeating the procedure cyclically. Manual lapping of valves should be performed until the appearance of a matte gray, even uniform belt on the chamfer. Its width is about 1.75, 2.32 mm for inlet valves, and 1.44, 1.54 mm for exhaust valves. After lapping, a matte gray belt of the appropriate size should appear not only on the valve itself, but also on the valve seat. Another indication, by which you can indirectly judge that lapping can be finished, is a change in the sound of the procedure. If at the beginning of lapping it will be purely metallic and loud, closer to the end the sound will be more muffled. That is, when rubbing is not metal on metal, but metal on a matte surface. Usually the lapping process takes 5–10 minutes, depends on the specific situation and the condition of the valve mechanism. Usually lapping is performed using paste of different grits. First, a coarse-grained paste is used, and then a fine-grained paste. The algorithm of their use is the same. However, the second paste can be used only after the first paste layer is well ground and hardened. After lapping, the valve and its seat should be thoroughly wiped with a clean rag, and the valve surface can be rinsed to remove any residual lapping paste from its surface. Check the lapping quality by checking the concentricity of the valve plate and valve seat. To do this, apply a thin layer of graphite with a pencil to the chamfer of the valve head. Next, the marked valve should be inserted into the guide sleeve, lightly pressed against the seat, and then rotated. By the resulting traces of graphite can be judged on the concentricity of the location of the valve and its seat. If the lapping is good, one turn of the valve will erase all the graphite marks. If this does not happen, the lapping should be repeated until this condition is met. However, a complete check is carried out by another method as described below, Upon completion of valve lapping, all working surfaces of the parts are washed with kerosene to remove lapping paste residue and dirt. The valve stem and sleeve are lubricated with engine oil. Then the valves are installed in their seats in the cylinder head. In the process of lapping the valves, it is necessary to get rid of the following types of defects: soot on the chamfers, which did not lead to deformation of the chamfer valve. Soot on the chamfers that has led to deformation. In particular, a stepped surface has appeared on the tapered surface and the chamfer itself has become round. Please note that while in the first case the valve can be simply lapped, in the second case the valve must necessarily be lapped. In some cases, lapping is carried out in several stages. For example, rough lapping is carried out until all sinks and scratches are removed from the surface of the workpiece. Often a paste with different grit levels is used for lapping. Coarse abrasive is used to remove significant damage, while fine abrasive is used for finishing. Accordingly, the finer the abrasive used, the better the valve lapping is considered to be. Usually pastes have numbers. For example, 1. Finishing. 2. Roughing. It is undesirable to get abrasive paste on other elements of the valve mechanism. If it got there, wash it off with kerosene. Lapping valves with a drill. Lapping valves with a drill is the most optimal option, with which you can save time and effort. Its principle is similar to manual lapping. The algorithm of its execution is as follows: take the prepared metal rod and put on it a rubber hose of suitable diameter. For better fastening, you can use a clamp of the appropriate diameter. Take the valve and put a spring on its stem, then install it on the seat. Slightly pulling the valve out of the cylinder head, apply a small amount of lapping paste to its chamfer around the perimeter of its plate. Insert the valve stem into the rubber hose. If necessary, also use a clamp of appropriate diameter for better fastening. Start lapping the valve in its seat at low drill speed. At the same time, it is necessary to move it back and forth, which, in fact, and will help the installed spring. After a few seconds of rotation in one direction, you need to switch the drill to reverse, and rotate it in the opposite direction. Perform the procedure in the same way, until the appearance of a mat belt on the valve body. Upon completion of lapping, thoroughly wipe the valve from the remnants of paste, preferably with the help of a solvent. The paste should be removed not only from the valve chamfer, but also from the valve seat. Lapping of new valves. There is another lapping of new valves on the cylinder head. The algorithm for its execution is as follows: with the help of a rag moistened in solvent, it is necessary to remove dirt and plaque. On the chamfers of all new valves, as well as on their seats. It is important that their surfaces are clean. Lubricate the tip of the rod with machine oil and place it on the seat where the device is to be lapped. Take any other valve of similar diameter and insert it into the chuck of a screwdriver or drill. Align the plates of the two valves so that they adhere to each other with tape. Apply light pressure on the drill or screwdriver at low speed to start lapping. The electric device will rotate one valve, and that in turn will transmit the rotational motion to the lapped valve. The rotation should be both forward and reverse. Signs of the end of the procedure are similar to those described above. Note that many modern automobile engines do not lend themselves to valve lapping. This is due to the fact that they are made of aluminum, and with significant damage to the engine elements there is a risk of frequent replacement of valves. Therefore, it makes sense for owners of modern foreign cars to further clarify this information, or better to seek help in a car service. Remember that after lapping, you cannot change the valves in places, because lapping is performed for each valve individually. How to check valve lapping? Once the lapping of the valves is complete, it is imperative to check the lapping quality. This can be done by one of two methods. Method 1. Thus, to perform the test, it is necessary to put the cylinder head on its side, so that the holes of the wells, to which the manifolds are connected, look up. Accordingly, the valves will be located in a horizontal plane, and their covers will be located vertically. Before checking the performed lapping of the valves, it is necessary to dry the valve outlets with the help of a compressor in order to ensure the visibility of possible fuel leakage from underneath them, i.e., so that the vertical wall is dry. However, this method also has its disadvantages. For example, it cannot be used to check the quality of valve lapping when the engine is running under load, gas seepage under load. Also, it cannot be used for engines equipped with an EGR valve, since their design implies the presence in one or more cylinders of the corresponding valves, through which the fuel will pour out. Therefore, it will not be possible to check the tightness of this method. Method 2. The second method of checking the quality of valve lapping is universal and the most reliable, since it allows checking the passage of gases through the valves under load. To perform the corresponding test, it is necessary to place the cylinder head upside down, that is, in such a way that the valve outlets, orifices, are at the top, and the manifold well openings, on the side. Next, you need to pour a small amount of fuel. In this case, it does not matter what kind of fuel, and it does not even matter its condition, into the valve outlet cavity, a kind of plate. Take an air compressor and use it to supply a jet of compressed air into the side well. And it is necessary to feed compressed air into the hole in the intake manifold, and in the hole in the exhaust manifold. If the lapping of the valves was performed qualitatively, then from under them will not come out air bubbles, even under the load, which provides a compressor. If there are air bubbles, signify that there is no tightness. Accordingly, lapping was done poorly, and rework is necessary. The method described in this section is extremely effective and universal. It can be used for any engine. Conclusion. Valve lapping is a simple procedure that can be handled by most car owners, especially those with repair skills. The main thing is to have the appropriate tools and materials. Paste for lapping can be made independently, or you can buy a ready-made one. However, the second option is preferable. To check the quality of the performed lapping, it is desirable to use an air compressor, providing a check of the seepage of gases. Under load, it is a more qualitative approach. Lapping of valves, 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 lapping of valves. In conclusion, valve lapping is a crucial process that enhances the performance and longevity of your engine. By ensuring a proper seal between the valve and the seat, you can improve efficiency and reduce the risk of leaks. Whether you're a seasoned mechanic or a DIY enthusiast, mastering this technique can lead to significant benefits for your vehicle. Remember to take your time, use the right tools, and follow the steps carefully for the best results. Thank you for watching, and happy lapping!